Every day, approximately 43% of our actions are performed out of habit. That means that rather than actually thinking about our behavior and consciously deciding how to act, we live almost half of our lives habitually, behaving automatically in the very same ways we've behaved before. Whether it's the things that you eat, the way you interact with others, or even your tendency to exercise, habits determine some of the most important aspects of our lives. So why not take advantage of them and make them work for us? Drawing on cutting-edge research into the psychology of habit, these blinks lay out what you need to do to make your habits work with you, not against you. In these blinks, you'll learn why uncertain rewards can be better than reliable ones, why self-control is misunderstood and overrated, and how long it really takes to cement a new habit. What are the first things you do when you wake up? If you're like most people, your morning routine is probably fairly fixed. You might just shower, dress, and hit the road. Or maybe you have to feed and dress your kids before you start your own day's work. Whatever the case, you probably didn't actually decide to do many of the things you found yourself doing this morning. There was no inner debate about whether to shower or whether or not to make a coffee. Without any conscious thought, you just went ahead as you always do, showering, dressing, and brewing yourself a drink. In other words, you acted out of habit. The key message here is, habits control our lives whether we notice them or not. Whether it's our morning routines or our exercise regimens, habits influence our behavior more than most of us know. So why do we so often overlook them? Because habits operate below the level of conscious thought. You see, habits differ from other mental processes like decision-making and willpower. These occur at the conscious level of the mind. When you hem and haw about which cereal to buy, you're fully aware of the thought process you're experiencing. It's a thoughtful, cognitive process. Habits, on the other hand, work below the level of conscious awareness. They don't really involve thought. Instead, they're non-conscious repetitions of actions you've performed many times before. Many of the things we do from day to day, both good and bad, are habits. It's habit that makes you signal before you turn. It's habit that makes you kiss your spouse when you get home from work. And it's habit that keeps you eating the junk food you've been meaning to cut down on for months. Recognizing the outsized role that habits play in our lives doesn't strip us of agency, though. After all, habits are malleable. You can always lose the ones you don't like and gain a few you do. In order to do that, however, we need to take a look at how habits work. Have you ever made a New Year's resolution? Most people have. Whether you promised yourself that you'd quit smoking, start jogging, or save a few grand over the coming year, you probably woke up January 1st brimming with confidence and enthusiasm. But did it last? If you're like most of us, not really. Bit by bit, your eagerness faded. You failed once and then twice, and pretty soon you stopped trying altogether. Unfortunately, that's just the way many resolutions go. But why? Do we lack self-discipline? Do we not want to achieve our goals? Or do we simply not know what's good for us? It's actually none of the above. There's another answer. Here's the key message. Habit influences our actions more strongly than self-control does. One of the problems with the way we approach change is that we focus on willpower and self-discipline. Because these are conscious processes, we imagine that they're the most important ones. If only we had a bit more self-control, we could cut our spending, ditch the cigarettes, and finally go on that jog, right? Well, maybe not. The problem with focusing on self-control is that it overlooks the importance of habits. Breaking bad habits and forming good ones is a far better way to change your lifestyle than hoping you'll develop steely self-discipline overnight. There's research to back this up. One study examining self-control enrolled over 100 teenagers in a meditation retreat. At the end of their 5 days of meditation, researchers asked the participants about how much they planned to meditate in the future. Some said less, some more. As you might guess, teens with the highest self-control were the most likely to meet their meditation goals. No surprise there, but what is interesting is how they met their goals. Researchers discovered that the students who met their goals didn't do it by continuously exerting their high self-control. The difference was that meditation quickly became automatic for them. In other words, they were just quick to form habits. This completely changes our understanding of how self-control leads to success. Instead of allowing us to resist temptations at every turn, self-control actually comes in handy at the initial stage of habit formation. In other words, self-control can lead to success when we use it to form good habits, not when we rely on it to guide every action we take. If you've ever streamed a TV show on a site like Netflix or Hulu, then you probably know what happens whenever you finish an episode. As soon as one ends, another immediately begins to load. And without lifting a finger, you're propelled into the next installment of your favorite series. Maybe you find yourself watching more TV as a result. Maybe you develop the habit of binge-watching TV shows, going through a season or more in a single day. In psychological terms, we can call the automatic queuing of episodes a driving force. Put simply, a driving force is an aspect of your environment that encourages you to behave in a certain way, in this case, to watch more TV. But what does that have to do with habits? This is the key message. Your environment can shape the habits you develop. The term driving force was coined by the German-American psychologist Kurt Lewin. Lewin argued that behavior is a function of a person and her environment. That's a memorable phrase, sure, but what exactly does it mean? Well, according to Lewin, human behavior is determined by two types of forces: internal forces like fears and desires, and external environmental forces exerted by the world around us. Now, we've already come across one type of environmental force, the driving force that encourages you to act in certain ways. The opposite type of influence is a restrictive force, which acts as a deterrent. To take one example, think of laws against smoking in bars and workplaces. By making it less convenient to smoke, these laws work as potent restrictive forces on smoking. It's not difficult to harness the power of driving forces and restrictive forces to change your habits. For example, do you find that you keep reaching for your phone while you're trying to concentrate? Try putting it out of arm's reach, in a drawer, say, under a stack of files and stationery. The minor inconvenience of having to root around for your phone will make checking your messages a little less appealing, giving you a chance to address your bad habit. You can also use driving forces to change your lifestyle. If you're trying to eat more healthily, for example, start leaving a well-stocked fruit bowl on your table. The trick is to make your environment an ally of your good habits, not their enemy.